And I see the process is done. This is that review window that I mentioned. We'll set that aside for now. Here on the progress screen, we can see the address correction processing results again, 52 pieces. And then over here's the move update results. And looks like we got 9 addresses that were updated. 1 address unavailable. This is a good thing to know about move update processing. A person can submit a change of address indicating that they're moving, the date they're moving, but they're not required to include a forwarding address. So for that reason and a couple other reasons, it's not uncommon to see about 10% of the addresses come back where you know the person moved, you know the date they moved, but you don't know where they moved to. And again, in the case where you're mailing something private in nature, you're going to want to remove these addresses from your mailing list because you know that they moved, they're no longer at that address, and mailing the piece to their old address could be a security or privacy risk. So the review screen here, unlike the other one, and we're not going to fix any addresses, it's just basically information showing you that the original address that we brought in was this PO Box 836. The new address that was returned by the move update processing is this Emmanuel Church Road address. And by clicking accept, what's going to happen is this is probably in the address line 1 field. That field is going to get replaced with the Emmanuel Church Road address. So those main working fields that we saw on the view screen, address line 1, address line 2, those are the ones that get updated. Now we won't delete the old address. Instead, we're going to take that original address and move it down the address record to some auxiliary fields called original address fields. So you can always get back to what the original address was if you need it. But as far as when it comes to address labeling, those main working fields are the ones that are going to get updated with the new address. So we just click accept, and then it moves on to the next one. Some of the information you get on move update shows the type of move. So in this case, it was a business move. The move date, it's always just a month and a year. You don't get a specific date, just get a month and year. And then the name used in the matching. So it matches on the address, but then it also shows you what name was used to match it. So in this case, it was a business address, and looks like they moved to apartment 4 to apartment 3. Okay, we'll just do accept all, and then that'll update all of those records. Let's go ahead and dive back in. I got one question. I lost where correct the fail address. Okay, well, we'll talk some more about that. So we did address correction and move update. So now let's jump back to views and take a look at some of the data that we collected. Now in my basic address view, I've added 2 fields, the error description and the error code. These 2 fields are updated by the address correction processing. So you recognize some of these here. Failed because of invalid PO. There's the error code. So the way you look at these error codes is that anything above 100 means that the address could not be validated. And so you'll notice here these that are above 100, they don't have a zip +4. And we can actually drill down more carefully and see more information. And this is one of the screens that one of the view screens that I referred to earlier that I wanted to show you. So I'm going to go to this detail button up here. So this is what we call the list view, and this is a toggle button. If I click the detail button, then it takes me to the address that happens to be selected, and it shows it on one screen, and it has a series of tabs under here. And if I go to the cast results tab, it's going to show me all of these fields that get updated by the move update or by the cast processing. Now I could go find these fields in the full record view, but look at how much easier it is to see what's going on when you have them all nicely displayed for you on this detail screen. So again, that's a toggle button. If I click listing, it goes back to the list. Whichever one happens to be selected is the one that's going to display when I click the detail. But I can also step through them here using this record navigator down here. So you can see we can step through. So notice on this one here, there's none of this data, none of the additional data is filled in. Why is that? Because this is that one that was outside of the range. It just couldn't be validated. And so it's saying primary number invalid. So basically this one's way off, way out of the range. Here's one of those ones that I referred to earlier as kind of the in-betweeners. So we've got validation to the building. So we get a delivery point, we get a carrier route, we get a line of travel number, it's an H, it's a high-rise building, so we get a lot of good information. What's the problem here is missing a secondary. The secondary for the address is either the apartment number, the suite number, the floor number. So there's a number of different secondaries, types of secondaries. They're also sometimes called units or unit designators. But as you can see here, we don't have a, there is no apartment number, so that's why it's coming up here with missing secondary. And again, these are going to judgment call on the part of the person who wants the mailing done. Should we exclude these because we don't have the apartment number, or should we go ahead and mail it in hopes that the letter carrier will figure out, we'll see the business name maybe on the front of the mailbox and it'll get delivered. So again, judgment call. Here's one with no significant changes, so there was no addresses. Here's another one, and here's a good one. This is an interesting one. Error code number 7. These, by the way, these error codes that are below 100, they're more like kind of status update. But this one here, it shows that it matched to a unique zip code. And unique zip codes are, they're zip codes where the organization owns the entire zip code. And so they're typically like hospitals, government agencies, universities, and basically the post office then just delivers it to their mail handling facility at that organization. And the organization says, fine, we'll take it from here. And then they go and do the delivery for you. So this is just an indicator telling you that this zip code matched to an existing zip code. And in that case, then bulk mailer does not try to validate the actual delivery address because that's within the organization's purview. Quite a few of those. Okay, here's another one. And okay, so one other quick demonstration. So I mentioned how we could check the addresses when you run address correction and you get to the end of it, you can check the addresses and you can have it recheck the address and try to fix it using what's called the review window. That same process can be done here in this in the address correction view, here in this detailed view. So if we click this single address check, so I'm going to break the address here. I'll get rid of what's called the road, which is what's called the street suffix. So that's things like avenue, road, street name suffix, is court, things like that. So I get rid of that. So the address, and then I've updated it. You notice how that wipes out all of the address correction data because now that I've changed the address, bulk mailer cannot be sure that whatever it provided last time is still valid. So it deletes it. But I can use this single check mark here to go ahead and run address correction again. It looks it up again. It finds that it's missing the street suffix, pops it back in there, and reports back that the error code 63, the suffix was changed. So if your list owner wants to know, well, what kind of things did address correction do to my list? What did it do to fix it? You could export this. You could export these fields for your list owner and show you. So in this case, 63, the suffix was changed. These cases are in zip code, so you can give them some additional information. These would be good things for the list owner to know that, hey, you've got an address here where the building is valid, but there's missing secondary. It's expecting it's not in there. So this kind of information you can export using the export screen. But we also have it available on a PDF report if you like. If it's a small enough report, you might want to just provide it on a PDF. So you come up here to this Print Custom Reports tool. Click on that, and the built-in one is address correction status. And if we do a view on that, we get a screen that looks like this, and it shows the address, and then it shows the error code and description of what the problem was. So here we're getting all of them. These same fields could be exported by going here to Import Export, and then down to the export area. And exporting the fields of interest to an external file. Now let's go ahead and talk about move update processing. So we ran move update as well, and so I'm going to open up the move update information view, and so we double click that guy. So now these fields are populated with the results of the move update processing. And as you would expect, in most cases, here the match flag of N indicates that no move was found, but also tells me that it was checked. This one here, the fact that it's blank tells me that this address was never even checked for move update. And my guess is that it is one that failed address correction. So if we highlight that guy, we can see since it failed address correction, you might recall, move update, it only checks addresses that have succeeded through the address validation processing. And if they fail, then they don't even get checked, which is why we have a blank here for match flag. This NCOA link footnote gives you additional information about the move. So if we come scroll down here, we'll find one that has a move. So here's one. So we've got I know it moved because we have a move effective date. The match flag of M indicates that a new address was found. The B indicates move type is B, stands for business. These match flags, by the way, there's not too many of them, and the error codes also, they're available if you want to see them on the screen by going up here to help, using address or using bulk mailer. And then if you come down here to the this last book, error and result codes. So here's the error codes. Here's 7 matched unique zip code. Here's all the error codes below 100, all the different things that it could find and update. And then once you get above 100, it says the uncorrected records. And so here it's showing you the various categories they could fall into if they're uncorrected records. But since we're talking about move update, the match flag, there's only there's like 6 of these. So the M, that's the happy story. We found a match and we got a forwarding address provided. Here's F, they moved out of the country. K, move but no forwarding address on file. G is the PO box is closed. N is by far the most common. It was checked, but no move was found. The X ones are sometimes a bit unclear, and that's where looking at the footnote can give you more information. So if you get a match flag of X, it'll have a footnote, and sometimes you'll be able to figure out what's going on by looking at this additional footnote field. So again, that's through tools. That was through the help button. While we're on the subject of looking up additional help, let's take a quick look at the Quadient community. Now, as part of your bulk mailer subscription, you get access to our customer portal. It's called the Quadient community. If you go to My Products, you'll see all of your registration keys, and it'll have links to where you can download them. If you go to My Cases, anytime you have a question or you call in, we make a case, and we try to capture what the question was and what the resolution was. And that comes in handy in case you have the similar problem 6 months later and you can't quite remember what it was. You can go to My Cases and look it up, see what the previous case was. But even more important is you can just go ahead and do a search. So we're going to talk about a group that's in the, go back to that. So when we get to groups here, we're going to talk about a group called the All Undeliverable group. And for more information on that, we'll do a search on this, and using the all deliverable records group to minimize return mail. So these are all different articles that are available to you. You just log in and you can do a search on them. If you have a question about submitting mail.xml, for example, here's all kinds of information about how to submit mail.xml, which is part of the full service mailing requirement. So this is a very, very good resource for you to make use of. Every time we're always adding new articles. Every time we get somebody who has a question that seems like a pretty common question and it's not in here, we'll go ahead and add it. So we're adding probably 5 or 10 articles every week. So there's lots and lots of good articles in here for commonly asked questions, and even some that are not so commonly asked. So again, that's the Quadient community. This is part of your subscription that you're paying for, so you want to make sure you take advantage of it. Okay, so back to the bulk mailer screen, and we're going to segue now into groups. So we've seen, we've created a mailing file, we imported some addresses, we viewed the addresses, we ran a couple of processing steps, address correction, move update. So we've got our addresses are basically ready to go for mail sorting. But you'll notice after address quality, we get to this section called groups. And I wanted to demonstrate a couple of the built-in groups. The idea of a group, it's kind of a way to filter or to select for a subset of your records. And we kind of got a preview of that when we did the filter for Chicago. So to demonstrate how these groups work, let's say that you wanted to provide your list owner with all the addresses that were updated by move update. So in that case, I want this group here, all move update records. And if I double click on that, what's going to happen is going to select all the records where the address was updated by move update. In this case, it found 10. You'll notice again here down where it says current count, there's only 10 records. And if we go to views, it's only going to show us 10 records because all the other records are in the inactive state, and any steps I take along here are only going to act upon the records that are in the current count, including viewing. So now you'll notice I only see 10 records. Now where this comes in handy is, let's say I want to give them that report. I'm going to, in this case, rather than the address correction, I'm going to give them the move status report. And so rather than giving them a report with 2009 records, here I'm giving them a report with just the records of interest, only the ones that were updated by the move update process. And it includes the match flag as well as the new address. So here's that Emmanuel Church record, or Emmanuel Church Road address. If I wanted to export, let's say it was a bigger list, or the person prefers to get it on an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file, then I would just go to the export process and I would run an export on the fields of interest for somebody looking at move update results. So that's one group. We have another group. Let's take a look at the all corrected records. So this one found 1,957 records. These are all the addresses that passed address correction. I'm going to switch over here to the basic address view. And so we'll notice that we've got the 93s in here, but we don't have anything over 100. And all of the addresses have a zip +4. So these are the all corrected, or all the addresses where we had delivery confirmation to the building at least. And we've got some here that are missing secondaries, but those are the apartment numbers, and so they still count as automation compatible records. And we got the zip +4. So let's go take a look at that last group, the group that I showed in the support article. We have a group here. So again, let's say we're doing a mailing with something that's private in nature. We want to make sure that we don't make any mistakes and mail something to the wrong person. So we want to exclude all the records that might have any kind of address, either validation or move update mistake that would cause the letter to get delivered to the wrong address. So we have this group called the all deliverable records. So if I double click on that, you notice that gets me down to 1,226 records out of 2009. It's excluding a lot of records, isn't it? So that's the safe thing to do. We make that the active group, and then we go to, so now if we go back to views and look at that error codes, everything looks really good here. And then if we go to the mail sorting process, we're only going to be sending those 1,200 records, but well, put it this way, we've done everything that we possibly can do to ensure that the record gets to the right person. And how did we do that? By excluding records that had any kind of address issues or any kind of move update forwarding issues. Now, the next question the list owner is going to say is, okay, that's great. I like that you're protecting me, but by not sending things to the wrong people, but what about those rest of those records? I still need to get them the message. So what we do is we go to groups and we select the reciprocal group called the all undeliverable records. So now there's the 782 records. We could export those and send them back to the list owner and say, here are the records that we didn't mail because we didn't want to inadvertently mail to the wrong person. Next question is going to be, well, what's wrong with those records? So now we go to views. If we go to this detail view, between this tab and this tab, we can very easily see why that address got included in the undeliverable group. So in this case, it's pretty obvious, has an error code above 100. Let's step ahead. But we get this call all the time down here. People look at it and they say, hey, this one's got an error code of 0. Why is it getting put in the undeliverable records? So for that, to answer that question, we look at the CAS results, and these look good. This address looks like a typical legitimate address, and it's validating. So then we go to this tab and we take a look over here. We see that the move type is N. Okay, so it was checked for a move. No move was found, so nothing funny going on over there. And then we go over here in this delivery point validation area, and we see that the DPV is vacant. So one of the conditions on the all deliverable group is that if the delivery point is marked as vacant by the U.S. Postal Service, then we put it in an undeliverable group. So typically that means the building's under renovation, or in the case of a PO box, it might be that the PO box got closed, or they renumbered their PO boxes, and PO box 400 is no longer available. So for whatever reason, we'd have to call the post office to find out specifically, but the reason it's getting put in the undeliverable group is because it's marked as a vacant delivery point. Here's another one, and this one here is going to be, yeah, so here's another one, no significant changes, and, oops. And if we go here, yeah, it's another one with a vacant delivery point. So, so that kind of wraps it up for address quality discussion. We need to keep moving on here. We're going to get into mail sorting, but just to kind of highlight the point here. The reason for groups, it's an optional step for you. You don't necessarily have to select a group. But if you want to exclude certain addresses from your mailing, this is a good place to do it. And by the way, you can create. Let's see, it's not spelled right. You can create your own group. So this one here, this one just grabs all the records where the state equals OH. So this is just going to grab all the records in Ohio. And fix the spelling on that. There we go. So in this case, there's no records in Ohio. If we were to change that, and I'm going to add a condition where state equals value IL. I know we had some Chicago records in there. So I'm going to say it could be Ohio or Illinois. Now we do finish. Now we got some records. 205 records gets returned. 205 in the current count. So if we go up to views here, we would expect to see only records in the state of Illinois. So there's another example of kind of creating your own custom group based on whatever your needs are, and then applying it to the list. Now, you know, I mentioned how do you get back to having all records active at the same time? In the view screen, when you're in the view screen, you can just right-click anywhere here and go to display all active records. The other two methods, one of them is to go to groups. We have a group called the all active records, and if we double-click that, that will put everything back in the active mode, and it'll also put everything back in the order it was imported in. So there's April, Luke, and Troy at the top. And then the third method is to close the mailing file and reopen it. If you reopen a mailing file, it automatically goes into this all active records group. Okay, so enough about groups. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop those into the chat window, and let's keep on going. We're going to talk about mail sorting. So when it comes to mail sorting, here's where we talk about the differences between a mail service provider, what we'll call a mailing agent, or a mail preparer, and the single entity mailer who's the same company and they're just doing mailings for their own address list for their own purposes, not doing mailing as a service for outside companies. And we'll get into that when we talk about the permit template in bulk mailer. To start with, though, we're going to use a wizard, and in this case, the wizard comes in two different versions. And if I go over here to the actions button, we'll see here it says Power Wizard. So I'm going to check this and just show you the Power Wizard first, and then we're going to go back and use the regular standard wizard in our demonstration. But so by checking that box, you'll see it now shows the Power Wizard. And if I double click on this here, this is the Power Wizard. It has all of the settings, lots of settings on a single screen. So for people that are familiar with mailing, this is probably going to be quicker for you. Once you've used, maybe you've done 5 or 10 mailings in bulk mailer, you might switch to this one too, because it's a little bit quicker. One of the nice things about it is that it's kind of interactive. So for example, right now I've selected standard mail, and you can see I have these discount options available. If I drop the mail at the SCF, I can get this additional entry discount. But if I switch over to first class mail, you'll see how those are now grayed out. And that's because these discounting options are not available for people doing first class mail. Something that is available on first class mail is this single piece rate. But if I switch over to standard mail, you'll see that's no longer an option for me. I no longer get the single piece rate. So you can see how this wizard is For me anyway, it was kind of a handy way to sort of figure out how the different classes of mail impacted the various options. And so it's the fact that it's interactive is kind of handy when you're getting to learn about the mailing business. But so that's the Power Wizard. We're going to go back and step through the regular wizard, and it's basically the same thing. It's just that it breaks it down into separate screens, and because it has more and it provides some kind of coaching along the way. So for example, in this screen here, we've got standard mail machinable letters selected. And over on the right, it shows you what is the range of dimensions. So if you're looking at a mail piece you're getting ready to mail, you're not sure whether it qualifies as a flat or this is FSM for folded self mailer or a letter. You can look over here and it'll show you. So for example, if we go to flats, the width has to be at least 6 inches wide and it can be up to 15 inches wide. The height has to be at least 5 inches tall and it can go up to be 12 inches tall. We can go 3/4 of an inch for thickness, whereas with letters, you're restricted to 1/4 inch for thickness. So this is all handy and nice information. You can of course look this up in the DMM, but look how much easier it is to find right here on the screen for you. The next screen here, we actually identify the piece size and the dimensions. The recommendation we have here when it comes to thickness and piece weights is you want to take advantage of using a larger sample size than one. You don't want to try to measure the thickness of a single piece, get some kind of micrometer on there or something, because really what we want to know is how much, how much space is a stack of letters going to take in the tray. And so ideally what you want to be able to do is maybe do a stack of 10, or you could stack up the letters until you get a 1 inch high and then count how many pieces there are in a 1 inch high stack. But again, the idea is to have your sample size greater than 1 in order to get improved accuracy. So we'll say we get a thickness of 1 inch for 10 pieces and 1 ounce for 10 pieces. So we take that same stack of 10 records or 10 envelopes and we put them on the scale and we read it out and we get 1 ounce. Here's the mail drop zip code. This is where you're actually entering the mail, mailing date, what date it's going to be mailed. These two fields here pop out on the postage statement and also on Postal One, so they're handy ways to track jobs when you're doing a lot of different jobs. They're optional fields, you don't have to fill them in. And then this one down here is a subject unto itself. This is what we call the mailing permit. And so we're going to take a little digression and we're going to talk about mailing permit templates in bulk mailer. And then we'll come back to the kind of the mail sorting process in general. The thing about mailing permits is that basically you set them up and then you rarely have to change them. If you're a mail service provider, then you're going to need to create new ones every time another mail owner comes in, because the permit template in bulk mailer includes the information about the mail owner. So so here's where you need to kind of pay attention to the differences. We'll start with what we call a mail owner template, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on this, and what it's going to do, it's going to open it up. So you can see we're kind of a wizard within a wizard. We're in the mail sort wizard, and now we're down here, and I've done something that you normally wouldn't have to do, and that is to open up the permit wizard to take a look at these settings in the permit. Again, normally you just select it and move on, but for our demonstration here today, we want to take a look at these. So the first screen, the very first settings where you indicate whether you're a mail owner, and when we say mail owner, again, think of it as you're just mailing your list. That's all you mail. You're not doing a list for an outside company. Mailing agent, if you select mailing agent, then you get some options. You have to say who's the permit holder, and there gets to be a third screen that we'll see here momentarily where you identify who the mail owner is. But we're going back and we're just gonna, this one we're gonna look at is just the case of, say, the water company or the small business that just does their own mailings and they're not in the mailing business. Okay, we put in the permit number, the issuing post office. This is very important right here. This zip code of issuing post office when it comes to submitting your postage statement as full service to Postal One. This has to match the permit number, or the permit number has to be issued by this, and the next screen where we show the CRID, or the customer registration ID, those three all have to go together. So you have a CRID that shows the permit number, and the permit number has an issuing post office. Those three all have to go together. It's a very high percentage reason for the calls we get when people call in and say they're submitting to Postal One and they're getting rejected. Quite often it's because one of these is out of place. Either the CRID's wrong, or the permit number's wrong, or they don't actually have the ZIP+4 of the post office. So here's the, so again, in the case of the water company business, this would be my business name. I do next, and that's all there is to it. So I just identify the mail owner. I'm the mail owner. I'm also the mail preparer, and that's all I need on this one. Now, for those of you in the mail service provider category, pay attention. Let's take a look at one of these. So first thing you'll notice, we're identifying mailing agent. We have to say who the permit holder is. Now, in most cases, when I've dropped in on people's computers that are in the mailing business, they're usually using their own permit. So most of the mailings I'm gonna run under my permit. It's a rare case where I do the mail owner's permit. So permit number 87. But notice how I've got permit 87 for the Pizza Depot, permit 87 for the Cupcake Shop, permit 87 for the Bead Shop, Hot Dog Stand. They all use permit 87. The thing that's different about them is the third screen. So here's the permit information. Here's my mailing agent information. Here's where the difference is on the mail owner screen. So here is where I have to identify who the mail owner is. I have to provide either a customer registration ID or a mailer ID. You don't have to do both, but if you have both, it doesn't hurt to have both. But you have to provide one or the other. And the shortcut I want to show you here is that so a new mail owner or a prospective client walks into the door and says, "Hey, you guys do mailings? I need you to do a mailing for me." Great. Let's set you up. We'll get you a quote. I need to have a permit pointing out who that new mail owner is. If I start with the mailing permit wizard, everything's blank. I have to put in 87. I have to go da da da. I got to go look up the ZIP+4. I got to do all this stuff. It's all starting from square one. The shortcut is to go and take an existing mail owner template, right-click on it, and choose duplicate the permit. So now I've got a copy of it. This is already filled in. Number 87, everything's all in there. There's my ZIP+4. This is already filled in. Here's my CRID, here's my MID. That can't be wrong because it's coming off of a known good template. And the only thing I need to do now is change the mail owner information in this last screen to match the new mail owner. And when I get to the end, give it a name, hopefully PI 87 new mail owner. And voila, got myself a permit, all ready to go. So the only thing I need to do is just make sure that I clean out the mail owner fields and put in the new mail owner field, new mail owner information into that last field. If I don't like it, delete it. Okay, so that's my spiel on mailing permits, and it's, like I said, it's kind of its own little topic. But fortunately on these things, once you go through the trouble of finding and verifying your ZIP+4, the issuing post office, and your CRID and your MID, and get all that set up, when it's time to do a mailing, the only thing you need to do when you get to this screen is specify the mailing date, select who the mail owner is, and then proceed on your way. So to get us back into the flow, I'm going to go ahead and just start over again with the mail sort wizard. So we're back here at the start. We're going to do a mailing, machinable letters. Here's all our settings. And now we're just going to grab the permit. We're going to get the mailing date. It's on the 27th. And who was I doing? I was doing, Pizza Depot. There we go. That's next. This screen here, the mail.dat information, most of you are probably going to leave this blank. Mail.dat is an alternate way to submit electronic postage statement to Postal One. Tends to get used by people that are doing more fancy things with their mailings, or the people that move their mailings around with tractor trailers and forklifts and such. In bulk mailer, most of the bulk mailer clients, it's a lot easier to submit it using the submit button here, and it uses mail.xml technology. Basically just sends it over through a web service message, and it updates it automatically. Whereas with mail.dat, you have to save the file, then you have to open up a utility that you get from the Postal Service in order to upload it. And again, there's advantages to that, but it does require extra steps. So in short, mail.dat information screen, just leave it blank unless you're going to use it. Here's where we talk about the different sort levels. Automation, not automation is pretty common for address lists that are spread out. If you're doing a more targeted one, then you're going to want to do a carrier route. You'll get a cheaper rate and faster delivery. But the carrier route requires that you have a higher density. So if you're like targeting a neighborhood where you want to hit just about everybody on the street, then you're going to use one of these carrier route options. The carrier route simplified addressing is the one you'd use for the every door direct marketing called EDDM type mailings. But for today, we'll stick with just automation and not automation. Lots of different sorting options here. We won't go into those, but again, if you open them up and you click the help button, here's that help button, advanced sort settings. Everything you need to know, good place to start right here. We'll do next. Here's the intelligent mail screen. The intelligent mail barcode, besides helping specify where the delivery point is, it also carries information about what services the mailer is requesting. And so the services are things like address change service, full service. Now we've got informed delivery. IMB tracing is another service. So any of these things is going to reconfigure the barcode so that when it gets scanned by the postal service, they know to treat it in the desired fashion. So they'll know to either scan it and send scans or to just send it to the address change service for processing. So everything about the barcode is right here. And here's our entry discounts. So if we have any pieces that are in the SCF, this is kind of a larger postal facility. Anything that's going to be delivered by this facility will get an additional discounting because we're dropping it at the facility that actually does the delivery for them, or it's within their serving area. Then this is where you specify what's going to get printed out on the tray labels. One thing to watch for here is by default, when you install bulk mailer, it's going to show company name as Satori Software or Quadient Incorporated and Seattle, Washington down here. So you're going to want to make sure you change that to be your company information. And then, of course, we always get the option to save the template. And so we'll go ahead and do that because it comes in handy sometimes. When it comes to saving sort templates, what I'd recommend is that you have some generic ones. So this is for standard letters. Here's one for first class letters. And maybe you have one for standard flats and so forth. So you have a template that is kind of sort of a generic template for the class and then the kind of type of mailing that you do. And then you're still going to step through that template and make modifications, such as the mailing date, maybe the piece, the piece weight and piece thickness. But the idea of the template is that it allows you to not have to worry about most of the settings that you've kind of set up for your mailings that you're not really going to have to change. And the reason for having a template for each class of mail is that when you're in these templates and you switch between classes of mails, it can cause a lot of the deeper down settings, like in the palettes, so forth, to sort of get defaulted back to what the default setting is. And that may surprise you, may be unexpected. So better off to start with a template that's specific for the class and generic piece type, and then just make the adjustments within that template. Or another good reason for a template is if you have a mail owner that you're dealing with who has very specific requirements, like maybe they have ACS and they want a specific address change service option. You can set up a template for that specific client that includes the ACS. ACS option 1, something like that, then that, okay, I don't have to drill down into those deeper menus to make sure that this thing is always set for this particular client who likes that. So that's, again, the idea of the templates is just to save the trouble of having to go through and check every setting. You can kind of rest easy that the settings are already specified for you, and you can just change the ones that need to be changed. All right, so here's our progress screen. Thing to look for on this one is the pre-sort levels. So I'm expecting that we're going to get most of these pieces qualifying into the automation category. And there were 52 pieces that probably failed address correction that we're going to see drop down into the non-automation category. And so that's what I'm going to look for, just kind of my rule of thumb. If everything failed and went into non-automation, then I know that, okay, either I forgot to run address correction, or maybe I, imported the addresses into the wrong fields, or, something went amiss. And so this is just kind of a good, quick check when you run this sorting, just to make sure that these, that categories are filling up like as you expect. Down here are the various reports. The postage report is the actual postage statement. Qualification report that's required. Here's your tray labels. If you have a drop shipment report, it'll show up down here. Then this is a recommended one. This mail sort summary. We'll go ahead and open these up and take a look at them, at the examples. Down here at the support office, we particularly like the mail sort summary because if you call in or send us a message saying, something went wrong in my mailing, I'm not getting the price I expect, or it's dropping this, it's creating this tray that seems to be going to the wrong facility. By looking in the mail sort summary, we can get a quick read on just about all the settings that were selected when you ran the mailing. So here's an example of the mail sort summary that we just ran. So it shows me here, okay, this was standard mail letters. Here's where it got dropped. Here's the number of pieces. Here's the piece weight. Here's how it broke down into the different categories. And another feature that's handy too, if you're doing Easy Track, it'll show the Easy Track job number down here. It'll show us the sequence ranges. These are like kind of like serial numbers that are put into the barcode. So it shows the range of sequence numbers in the barcode, what the barcode mailer ID was. So you can see there's a lot of good information in here. Here's that SCF that I selected, and that's why I got the drop ship report. So apparently there are some pieces maybe that are going to get delivered by this Philadelphia facility. And then page 3, here's the actual postage statement itself. So obviously you're going to give this to the post office if you're not submitting electronically. If you are submitting electronically, we're still going to generate the paper postage statement, but the one that really matters is the one that shows on the Postal One account. Here's a qualification report. We have a container listing report and the tray tags. So those are the reports that get generated. Over here, these files. Here's the mail.dat files. I mentioned that that's an alternate method for submitting electronically. If you're using that method, here's where you would save those out. And then down here, number 4, the mail piece, this takes you as actually a shortcut to this print mail section. So once you have some print mail templates set up, you can just quickly jump to this and do your printing. But we're going to go ahead and spend a few minutes looking at print mail before we do that. Before we leave, though, let's go back to the home screen. And here's our mailing. And now you'll notice down here, if we look at reports, here's the address correction report. Here's the move update report, and shows the mail sort report. So you can see if I close down the program, reopen it, I can come back here and still get back to my postage statement. So here it is. I can even save out the mail.dat files if I want. So so we keep track of that. We keep track of actually the last 10 mail sorts that you've done. So if you have, I've seen this in a few times where the initial job is quoted to the customer. So you've got a mail sort for the quote. And then, a couple weeks later, they decide they want to actually do the mailing. They bring in, now you know what the piece size and the dimensions, and you've got more updated information. You're going to rerun the mailing, and so you'll have a second one in here showing the actual production mailing. Sometimes they don't match. People contact us and say, hey, how come I quoted this price, and now when I do the mailing and actually do the production mailing for the person, the price is not matching the original price. And how can we explain that? Well, again, we go and look at that mail sort summary, and we compare maybe there was a change in the postal rates or something like that might explain it, or the number of pieces, whatever. By looking at the mail sort summary and the postage statement between those two versions, we can usually pretty quickly determine why the quote didn't match what the production was. Okay, so I got another question. Okay, I'm sorry. I can see my chat window was a little too small, and so I've missed a few questions here. Let me go back here. Is there a printable report that shows organization address and the corrected ones in order to use the corrected address? Shows the org address and the corrected ones. Again, we don't look up organization names. We don't look up the people. Well, all we do is validate that the address. All we do is validate that the address is a valid delivery point. There's one exception in that address correction has this thing called SweetLink. And if you provide a business name and they're registered with SweetLink, it will double check the suite number. So like, for example, this one here, if they're registered with SweetLink, it'll actually pop in the suite number automatically for us. So let's see if that works. So if we are missing the suite number on this one, we run address correction and comes back, cast results. No, they're not, so it didn't do it in this case. But I know, so for example, Satori Software, if you put it in here without the suite number, SuiteLink will figure out that it's missing the suite number and it'll put in the suite number. But other than that, we're not looking up organizations. The only thing we're doing is, again, the CAST process as defined by the Postal Service. The only thing the CAST process is doing is validating the street number and the delivery point, or checking to see if the person moved. And as far as the results go, we saw where you could check on the results. So hopefully that answers that question. Is it printable report? Okay. Yeah, the original address. So we don't, except for the move update process, and we don't keep the original address. So the only thing, if the address gets updated, then you're going to see that reflected over here in these ones where, like in that demonstration where I showed you where the suffix was updated. So it's a handful of records, but if any of those status codes that are below 90, they're pretty much going to show you what was done to the address to fix it. So anything that's below 90 and down below is going to be more of a kind of a status update, but we don't keep the original version of the address. To get that, you would have to go back to your input list and try to compare them. Or you could take an additional step here in the database. You can go to this Mass Edit Records tool. Before you run address correction, you could copy the contents of address line 2 and put it here. I'm doing address line 2, but it could be address line 1. You could copy the contents of address line 1 and put it into one of the user text fields that you're not using. And if we do finish on that, it's going to go ahead and do that. Now, if I look at address line 2, or if I look at if we look at the user defined here, user text number 2 now has that version. So if I had done that before we ran address correction, then that would be a way to get a snapshot of the address before address correction, and then you could put those two fields side by side and do a comparison to see what was changed. But as far as the program goes, if you're just going straight through and doing your processing, the only indicator you'll have is the error code update. So so again, if we remove that, the street designator, then we'll get this suffix was changed. So that would be really the only indicator you have to say what did address correction do to the address. I hope that helps. And let me check a look here, so we got any more. Okay. Okay, while we run address correction, can we view or fail the error addresses? So again, I think we've talked about that. So you can see the addresses that failed. And the review window brings them up right at the very end. If you don't want that review window, or if if you're doing the internet processing, then what you'd want to do is add these error description and error codes to your view field, and then you can see them right here in the view screen. How did I add those fields? By right-click, choose Open, click Next, and the error description, they were down here, address correction error codes. So I just highlight them, click Select, and I put them down here into my address, into my basic address view. Or alternately, you could start with a fresh one and just put in the fields you want and include those address correction fields, and then create yourself a brand new list of view. Okay, so catching up there on those questions. Doesn't look like I have anything new. If let's see, so we talked about mail sorting. We ran a mail sort. Another way to get back to your results, you can go up here to Actions, Reprint Reports, and here's that mail sort that we ran. If we took our June 1, here's our sort. If we open that, this is our template that we just stepped through, and maybe we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to change the mailing date to be the 28th. Let's make sure. I want to try to submit this to Postal One, so I just want to make sure that we've got good credentials. 87, yeah, that looks good. I think this is 681. And so I'll make a little update to the templates. And then, yeah, here we go. This is good. So here's this pop-up box here about sequence numbers. This will pop up anytime that you sort your list a second time. The reason for that is, so I created this mailing file, June session file number 1. We ran a mail sort on it. Everything's fine. Now I'm going back and I'm not rerunning address correction or move update or anything. I'm just going back and rerunning a second mail sort because I wanted to make a modification to my mail sort. Say I want to change the mailing date or something like that. The program needs to know, because I'm doing full service, it applied a group of serial numbers, or sometimes called the sequence numbers, to the barcodes. And if I go back to rerun my mail sort, it needs to know whether it can reuse those sequence numbers on the same mailing or whether it needs to allocate a new batch of sequence numbers for this next mail sort that I'm doing. So every time you create a mail sort, it creates barcodes. Every time it creates barcodes, it needs to put in the serial number. We need to tell the program whether to use brand new serial numbers or whether it can reuse the serial numbers that it used the last time on this specific mailing file. And the reason for that is because there's a limited pool of sequence numbers for each mailer ID that can be used within a 45-day period. And so you don't want to just use them willy-nilly and then run out of them for that mailer ID. So in this case, so anytime you see this message, if you're rerunning your mail sort, you're going to get this question about sequence numbers. Well, the mailing was sorted, for the 27th, delivery on the 27th. Has the previous results been submitted to the post office? If you say yes, it's going to crank out a new batch of sequence numbers for this mail sort that I'm just about to run. If I say no, then it's going to reuse those same ones that it used last time. And that's a good thing to know. If you've already printed your, let's say you've already printed your barcodes, those serial numbers are embedded in the barcode. Those sequence numbers are there in the barcode. And so if we say yes, and then we submit this to Postal One, the new batch of sequence numbers are not going to match the ones that are printed on the labels. So we want to make sure we say no. And in fact, I would say for probably 99% of the time that you get this message here, you're going to want to say no. The only exception is really in the case where the mail owner says, look, I want you to send out postcards. And then with the same list, after the postcards went out, I want you to send a follow-up letter a week later to everybody, and it's the same list. And so in that case, you're actually creating two different mailings, two different sets of barcodes. In that case, you would say yes, because we want a new batch of barcodes. We want a new batch of sequence numbers in our barcodes for the second mailing. Otherwise, we'll get a scorecard error about having duplicate sequence numbers. So in our case here, we're going to say no, because we didn't send it out. We're just resorting it again. So the Postal One full service requirement that you submit your postage statement electronically. That's becoming more and more expected by the Postal Service. It's actually a nice thing to do. It's quicker when you drop off your mail. It can catch mistakes in your mailing before you even submit them, and so that can help you. The one thing that kind of scares people about it is that if I submit my postage statement on, say, like today's Wednesday, I submit my postage statement today, but what if we're not sure, the mailing might not be ready to go on Friday, or, we might need to push it off till Monday. Am I going to get in trouble that I've told the post office that I've done this mailing and now I'm not showing up? And the answer is yes, you need to let the post office know what the correct mailing date is. But fortunately, it's very easy to make that change. So I'm going to go ahead and, so we've run a second mail sort here, and just to show you how this reprint reports works. So now if we go back here, you'll see that there's two. Shows one that was done at 11:36, another one that was done at 11:50. So it keeps track of all the mail sorts that you've sorted. So we go here to submit, click start, and we're going to submit this mailing to Postal One. Notice it says test environment, so I'm submitting this to my test environment. There's a setting in the tools and the preferences where you can tell it that you want to send it to the production environment. If you set it to the production environment, then it will indeed show up on the dashboard of your post office, and they're going to be expecting you to show up with your trays. If we set it to the test environment, they don't care. It's what they call a sandbox, and it allows us to submit mailings and see how they look and get used to the process or test the process. Okay, all of this information has to be right. Customer registration ID. Notice down here, verification facility identifier. Same thing as your customer registration ID. If you forget, click the help button. It'll tell you what to put in there. This is another very common call. People get this wrong, and then they get an error message when they try to submit. But here's what I wanted to get to. So this mailing is the first time it's being submitted to Postal One. So the submit mailing is set. You notice these other two that are grayed out. If I had previously submitted this mailing, then it would be the opposite. These two would be enabled and the submit mailing would be grayed out. And if I had previously submitted this with a mailing date of the 28th, and now I want to change it, what I would do is I would just go into the home screen and reopen this mailing, go straight to submit. Don't need to do any address correction processing, don't need to do any mail sorting, don't want to do any mail sorting because that leads to opportunities for things to go wrong. All I need to do is change the mailing date on the Postal One version of the postage statement. I go straight to submit, and then I come down here and I can change the mailing date down here. In fact, I can change it even the first time I've submitted. So even though I'm still just done my first step of submitting it, I can go ahead and change the mailing date here. If I had previously submitted it, then I would have the option for modify mailing, and then I would come down here and change it there. We get a warning about the date being changed. Yes, we know that, and we do finish. And so now it's going to grab this mailing information about this mailing we've been working on, and it's going to go ahead and submit it to Postal One. Put it up on the Postal One dashboard. That becomes the postage statement of record at that point. Once it's on the dashboard up there, that's the one the post office cares about. You can look at your paper postage statements, for just kind of personal reference or local reference. But what really matters as far as the postage amount you're paying and everything is what shows on the Postal One dashboard. And let's see, I'm going to see if we can pull this up. I'm going to, so while we're waiting for that to go here, hopefully some of you have seen the screen. This is the Business Customer Gateway, and this is how you get to Postal One. You have to log into it. And because I'm submitting this to the test environment, I need to go to what the test environment area. But if you're doing production mailings, you would go straight to here, the dashboard. You click on the dashboard and it'll show you, there's a way to show you all the mailings that you've submitted, and then you can drill down and see the actual postage statement. Because I'm submitting to the test environment, I'm going to go here to mailing services and then electronic exchange. And I need to get to one of these links that says go to TEM. See, here's one, here's another one. They all go to the same place. So we just click on go to the test environment. And you'll see at the top here, it shows you that you're in the test environment. So now I'm going to go to my dashboard. The dashboard doesn't open directly. Instead, you get kind of a search screen that shows you, that allows you to select like a date range. So what you want to do here is include statement all statuses, and we'll do a search. And now it's going to bring up the list of mailings that it's submitting. So here's my mailing file. You see no postage statement yet. So I think we're a little bit early, but it's here's the job ID. And by the way, that, yeah, you can see it's not quite done yet. So it hasn't quite created the postage statement yet, but it's kind of halfway there. We can take a look at one of these other ones. So these are, each one of these listings here is a mailing that's been uploaded. The job ID is available in the mail sort summary report. So in one of those, that first report that I showed you where it shows all the settings that were selected when you ran the mail sort, it also lists in the top right the job ID. So you can use that as a way to cross-reference to this screen here. The postage statement number gets generated during this process of uploading. And so we have, we don't have access to that when you do the mail sort, so it doesn't get that doesn't get captured in the mail sort summary. But if we click on that, it's going to bring up the electronic version of the postage statement. And it's laid out, relatively similar to how the paper postage statement is. So at the top on the left, it shows who the account holder is. Here it's got the mailing agent. I think on the paper postage statement, it says if other than account holder, this is blank. But here on the electronic version, they populate that, and then they put the mail owner over here. The thing to look for once you've opened up this is this confirmation page. So once you've submitted it to Postal One, and we're still submitting, so you can see that's still chugging away there. Once you've submitted it to Postal One, now this was a different postage statement that I'm using for demonstration purposes. Once you've submitted it to Postal One, and you want to check it out, make sure it looks right, then you want to click on this confirmation page. And this page right here is what you want to bring down to the post office along with your trays. When you go to enter it at the post office, you show them that, hey, I've submitted electronically. Here's my printer-friendly version of the postage statement confirmation page. And so it gives you kind of all of the important information. So it's got the statement number, number of trays, the amount of money that that it costs, and all that. So this is again the confirmation page. You get to it by going to the dashboard and then opening up the postage statement and then clicking on the confirmation page button. You can see this is kind of taking a while here. The Quadient community, we have a number of KBs that talk about submitting to Postal One. And let's see if we can take a look at some of those. Yeah, mail.xml. So the submit button that we saw on the bulk mailer screen, that uses what's called mail. This one here. This one uses mail.xml technology, and that's what we're doing right now. Now, this brings up one of the advantages of the mail.dat option. So there's mail.dat. That's where we saved out the file by clicking the button to save the file. But that requires that we use a separate utility for uploading it. But you can see right now that's actually a nice benefit. If you have a large mailing and it's taking, our Postal One is kind of slow for some reason, it's taking a long time to upload. If we use mail.dat, we save out the mail.dat files. We use this outside utility to upload the mail.dat files. Then we can jump right back into bulk mailer home screen and start in on our next job. So it kind of frees up the program. You're not having to wait for the progress bar to complete, and allows you to start in on your next mailing file. Hey, we're kind of running short on time. I didn't get a chance to talk about printing. You can print from bulk mailer using the print mail option, and it's going to be very different for each one of you because you've all got probably different printers. But basically, there's a wizard in there that allows you to select your printer and then do a layout as far as, put your address label in. You can include additional fields, things like the tray number, the sort position, or, for example, that promotional code field that I was using, the address line one, or the user text one field. You can take any of the fields that are available and drop them onto the mail piece, and then go ahead and print them. If you're not printing from bulk mailer, then of course you're going to want to export the address fields, including things like the IM barcode and so forth. That you would do in the import export step. Okay, looks like our upload is done, and so now if we go back to here, let's go back. I'm going to scroll down here and refresh my results. And so there's the postage statement number for this one that we submitted. Notice it took the name of the bulk mailer file and included it here under job publication name. So it's important when you give names to your bulk mailer files. Good to make sure you've got those. So each one has a useful name, because it comes in handy when you see it up here. All right. So unfortunately, we're kind of out of time. If you do have questions on anything that we've covered here, first thing to do, log into your community account and do some searching in there. Look for more information in the KBs. You can call us on our support line, or you can create a case in the community and post your question. The nice thing about creating cases is that as part of creating the case, you get to select information about what inquiry type. So you get to select what product you're referring to, and that will route the case to the group of people supporting that product more directly than if you call in and wait on hold for 10 minutes and then have to get somebody basically who's going to just write the case for you. So this is actually a really good quick way. If you have something that's urgent, say something that you need attention on right away, then go ahead and put in the subject line right away. Just start off with the word urgent, and then state the best description of your problem. That's very helpful for us because then we can identify who's the best person to respond to that question, and then we can reach out to you very quickly. Make sure you put in, if you want us to contact you, give us your contact information. Do give us a description about what it is you're trying to do, at least in general terms, so that again we can get the right person responding to that request. Okay, so that wraps it up for today. Thank you for your time, and hope you all have a good experience using Bulk Mailer, and let us know if there's anything we can help you with. Again, this is Bayard, and have a great day. Bye-bye.